Our very first conversation allows us to center ourselves around students. Now, we are making a very intentional choice to center and extend conversations toward student well-being, mental health, and the unseen battles that many carry silently. That is the reality. Because success isn't necessarily about passing when it comes to varsity. It's about surviving, coping, becoming, unraveling self in the context of your force field, which is your career choice, of course. And now we are deeply honored to be joined this evening by Sirishka Doodhnath, who is a dedicated social worker at the Office of Student Success. Her work goes far beyond support. She is shaping spaces where students can feel safe, seen, and supported. Through mental health advocacy, wellness programs, and initiatives like the NES Ambassador Program, she's helping students build resilience, find their voice, and navigate both academic and personal pressures with dignity. Sirishka, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
Hi, Kitty. Thank you so much for having me.
Sirishka, you're currently talking to Sheila. Kitty is on standby for you, though.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Sheila.
Not to worry, not a problem. Let's get into the conversation at hand. And I want us to, I was thinking about this chat for a bit, right? Quite a few of us did varsity eons back, but that's not the point. I sort of want us to tackle this conversation as though we are varsity students. I want us to frame it so that the heard word, the spoken word, is to somebody who's currently going through that experience. So I want to start off by the reality that students are overwhelmed, right? You step into first year, it's completely different from what you experienced in high school, and you feel like you're doing everything right. You're waking up early, you're doing the gym thing, you're going to every single class, you're making time to study, you're making time for extramural activities, you're trying to build your social life, but you still feel overwhelmed. What's happening there?
So I think, unfortunately, what is going on is that students, and this is students all over, after COVID has happened, I think we kind of lost the way to life and like how to balance life. So not balance life per se, but like in terms of financial, academics, and even emotionally. And it's becoming heavy for them. So I think that's answering your question, right?
Definitely. And so when you are looking at some of the students that come into your program that are part and parcel of the recipients of your advocacy work, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing that they're experiencing in terms of the balance between finances, between personal life, between academia? What are some of the striking problems that you see on the daily?
So I work with health science, to be specific. And health science students do work with clients, and they suffer from, or patients rather, and they suffer from a very unique kind of pressure. Their programs are demanding, fast-paced, and often emotionally intense, especially when students are exposed to clinical environments and real-life patient care. So we do try to meet them where they are, and this includes practical support like workshops and exam stress management and time management, but also creating safe spaces where students can talk, reflect, and connect with others who kind of understand their experiences.
Yeah. Sirishka, I do think that the next question extends beyond the varsity level and caliber. And I want us to get into the context of the difference between stress, burnout, and anxiety. We'll do that in just a short bit. If you've just joined us, thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. Welcome to it. This is African Diaries. We are currently in conversation and honored to be joined by a dedicated social worker at the Office of Student Success. That is Sirishka Doodhnath joining us. And so if you want to send through your questions, you can find us on YouTube. We're currently streaming live. Head over to YouTube. Channel Africa is the page, and you should see a pink to red. I don't know why people see red, but listen, pink to red highlight on the profile. And if you click on that, you have access to the stream. If not, do find us on www.channelafrica.co.za. And then lastly, send through your questions to +27 83 288 6684. Sirishka, I want us to bring it home, right? There's a difference between being stressed, being burnt out, being anxious. What is the difference between those three, experientially at least?
So I think when you talk about stress, right, you get two different types of stress. You get healthy stress and you get um, negative stress. And like negative stress is, well, healthy stress is just like how you get through life. Negative stress is kind of where you're blurring the lines between burnout and stress, because how you handle your stress is really what like matters the most. So for me, stress is it's like getting stuck in traffic. Now you're stressing about that. But burnout is when you really are like tired, like you've overstressed, you're overstimulated and overwhelmed. That's burnout. Like when your body is saying, I can't do this any longer. For me,
Sure.
that's burnout. And what was the last one? Sorry, Shayla.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
So anxiety is the feeling of I can do it, but I'm gonna like it's the force of either procrastination, like you're gonna feel procrastination and not want to do it, or anxiety is going to be that feeling of you need to do it now, and it's pushing you and forcing you. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
No, it does. It does. The reason I want us to highlight these things, because I feel like sometimes we have conversations and these go above and beyond our day to day experience. So we will talk about these big frames of content, and we'll talk about managing stress and this, but I don't know if what I'm feeling is what you are addressing essentially. And so that's why I wanted us to create the distinction. And what would you say some of the warning signs for these are?
So for burnout, personally, I feel like burnout is when you just can't anymore. You feel it in your body, you feel it, you're tired. Your body's literally shutting down and saying, you can't go further. Um, and then stress is kind of you can feel your jaw being clenched, your shoulders being tightened, your fists being tightened as well. And it's just you're gonna keep going because you know you can still do it. Anxiety, however, it's your chest, I mean your heart beating really fast and you losing your breath and sweating maybe or getting hot. Those are the like physical mm, symptoms. Yeah.
Sirishka, let's get into the programs and I suppose the support systems and structures that can assist with these kinds of feelings and sensations. Essentially, those who are equipped to help us navigate university. I know that you are part of the cluster, so I want to talk about Office of Student Success, the role that you play, specific to, of course, the health sciences students.
Okay, so at the Office of Student Success, I actually offer psychosocial supports in terms of hosting workshops and events based on whatever external problems our students are facing. So, for example, if our students are going through exam time, I host anxiety workshops. And through that, we teach them or give them tools and like kind of help them um, going forward through like the future and how to handle that, because it's not always going to be just university. It's going to be real life one day. So we equip them with things that they need for the future.
Yeah. And have you ever seen an unhealthy codependence on support systems from students? Is that something that you've seen occur?
Unfortunately not, because I don't work with individual counseling. So I do group work where we also allow students to actually assist their peers. Um, so in that like sense, it's where students come together in groups and they can talk about issues and kind of lean on the next person. But it's never become unhealthy.
And at what point do you think a student needs to turn to these, I suppose, networks to receive some kind of counsel? Because I do think we try and, for the lack of a better word, thug it out, right? Try and push through. And then once we get to that stage of being burnt out or completely done for, that's when we want to go seek for help. When is the right time to turn and look for help?
Honestly, for me, I
Yeah,
always say prevention is way better than cure.
yeah.
So that's like when you really get to university, because that's when isolation occurs. You're not like a small fish anymore. I mean, you actually are a small fish in a big pond. So that is the time when you're like experiencing not having anyone. Some students move from like all different parts of the country or even the world, and then they like isolate. So at that point, when you're already realizing that you're lonely and you need someone, or you've had a bad exam or like test in the first week, because stuff like that happens, that's when you already should be reaching out for help, not waiting for it to like build up. Mm.
That is fair. Let's talk about the NES Ambassador Program. What's that?
So the NES Ambassador Program is the Nurturing Excellence for Student Success program. It's actually a program that offers peer-to-peer support. So that means I have 58 students currently that are on ground, kind of being my ears, my eyes, and my voice. So they see what their peers are going through. Because as much as I would hate to admit it, I am older than like the students. So I don't actually like fully comprehend what they're going through. So the students are now able to go onto ground and kind of suss out the vibes and see what they feel is the problem. And then they come back to me and we work on hosting an event or an activity that kind of equips their peers to be better. Yeah.
And I suppose, lastly, I want to turn back to management because I think above and beyond access to programs such as the NAS Advocacy or Ambassador Program, you do have day-to-day struggles that students and I think even adults are going through, and they don't necessarily know what the first steps are. For somebody who's feeling burnt out or drained, because I do hear a lot of that from society, just on the capacity of your social worker capacity, let's talk about what we do. What are the first steps? Sirishka, if I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, like, how do I turn that tide around?
Sheila, can I have a bit more, mm, like a bit more? Can you perhaps
Yeah.
tell me, yeah, exaggerate a bit more, please?
Exaggerate a bit, but I
Not
love that.
exaggerate, sorry, but for the lack of words,
Yeah.
exaggerate.
Yes, ma'am. So what we're seeing, and I think that this is something that's echoing not just on varsity capacity, but even in workspaces, environments where people experience high forms of pressure. People aren't just burnt out to the extent of not being able to cope. People almost want to throw in the towel, you
Mm.
know? And so, on your capacity as a social worker, because you understand the nuances of how people move and what would bring them down and pull them up again, how do we change that tide? What can I do in my immediate environment to begin the process of turning that tide of burnout or even just being generally drained around?
I honestly think that goes back to the work-life balance. So I think we're so focused on what's going on now and like what the next step is of how to um of like a work deadline or what to achieve, that we completely forget to take care of ourselves. It literally boils down to self-care. What do you do in the morning? What is the first thing you do? Because I know like a lot of people look at their cell phones and that's completely unhealthy. We should be touching the grass and just grounding, if that makes sense. Taking some time, go to the gym, go for a walk. Like self-care has never, or counseling has never needed to be expensive. It literally is the small things that kind of help us, if that makes sense. So it really is like investing in yourself, going for a massage or doing your nails, even cutting your nails, making your bed. Small things like that, Shayla, make a big difference.
Sure, I love that. I love that. Counseling need not be expensive. In actual fact, it's the investment that you pay to self that brings you up again. Sirishka, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Shayla, for having me.